Builds in Souls-like games are so very important because those are your first line of defense against the perilous hazards that you have in front of you on those complex and hard, difficult games. In this video I'm going to show you how to make a proper build that is going to be efficient, that is going to be amazing, that is going to be strong. I'm not going to show you a specific build, but rather I am going to tell you how can you make your own build that is strong, that is efficient, and that is not going to mess up your playthrough, because again, one of those important things that happen in this kind of games is that you can mess up your game real bad if you not have a proper build. What is up, you damn gorgeous and beautiful gamers? Welcome back to RPJames. This is Mariel Corner in the internet, where we like to discuss about RPGs. If you like the content, if you like to have these conversations, RPJames, I would very much like to invite you, like always, to hit the like button, because it really helps me like you have no idea. And also, most of the people that watch my content are in fact not subscribed to my channel, so what are you waiting for? First and foremost, is my class important when I am choosing to make my class? No, it really is not important. Your class is going to guide you through a specific path, but your class is not going to determine how are you going to make your build at the end game. So do not feel afraid of taking a class that looks nice to you at the very beginning of the game, because you can later on not respect, but change your playstyle to something completely different, and it's going to be efficient. Second, weapons. That is going to be the main core of your build. Your weapons. I'm going to tell you how stats work, and I'm also going to tell you how scaling works. You need to understand how scaling works in these games, but that's going to be in different videos. For now, I'm just going to tell you how can you get the most out of your builds to make the strongest build that you can possibly make. So for example, the very first thing that you need to know about weapons is that it really does not matter what kind of weapon do you have. If you find a weapon fancy, if you like this weapon, if you like how it looks, if you like the playstyle, then you can use it throughout the entirety of the game. There is no such thing as a best weapon in these games. There is no such thing as end game gear. If you have the very same weapon that you had with your starting class, if you like it, you can use it throughout the whole entirety of the game, because the upgrading system that you have right here in these games is that you can upgrade a basic weapon all the way to the ultimate level, and it's going to carry you through the entirety of the game. So if you find a weapon that you like this one for example, you can use it throughout the entirety of the game without having to worry. What you do have to worry is about stat allocation and how to make that weapon efficient. So as you can see, we have 3 different scalings on each weapon for Steelrising. We have power, agility, and alchemy. That leads us to stats. So your main damage stats are always going to be power, agility, and elemental alchemy. You will see that your weapons have different scalings, like power affinity, alchemy affinity. Those are for hybrid builds, but there are some other weapons that only have one scaling. So if you see this weapon and you feel like that you are going to natively increase its damage by placing points into agility, it's not. It's always going to get damage from alchemy. Alchemy affinity, and that means that you're always going to be placing points into alchemy. If you waste points right here, they're not going to be of any use to you. On the other hand, if you have this weapon, for example, this has power affinity and alchemy affinity, then that means that I can increase my damage by placing points into power and alchemy. And that being said, each kind of weapon fills a very specific purpose, which you need to have in mind. What kind of build, what kind of playstyle do you want to have? At the end of this video, I am going to showcase you my build that I have right now at some extent. I'm not going to dwell too much in it, but my stat allocation is going to determine what kind of build am I going to have. Like I said, these 3 right here, these are stat damage. These 3 right here, those are just side stats. You'll understand what I'm speaking about. So for example, elemental alchemy. Elemental alchemy is going to increase my flame damage, frost damage, and fulmination damage. But if I am going to make an alchemy build, an elemental alchemy build, it is also in my utmost interest to place points into engineering, because it's going to increase my affliction multiplier, as you can see right here. So if I place fire into someone, it's going to be increased, the damage, the time it's done on the enemy, it's going to be increased by engineering. Fulmination damage is going to be increased by alchemy, elemental alchemy, and the duration of the debuff of the enemy, it's going to be increased by engineering. Also, with elemental builds, you're most likely always going to be using elemental capsules. Engineering is going to allow you to have loot multiplier and get more alchemical capsules from enemies. So as you can see, these two stats are highly tied up together. If you're going to make an elemental alchemy build, then you should also be considering taking some points into this one. Now these three work for every single build, but those are to your personal preference. They are all useful, but more often than not they are tied to be synergizing with a specific build. For example, agility. Agility increases the damage for agility based weapons. And also, you can see just by taking a look at them that at some extent they seem to be like agile weapons, but do not let yourself be deceived by that. It's always going to be based on the affinity that the weapon has. So if you're going to make an agility build, it is in your most interest to place bigger, to focus on bigger instead of durability and engineering, because while agility is going to increase your physical damage, bigger is going to give you critical hit multiplier. Agility is also going to help you with your immobilization. Immobilization basically is the riposte mechanic on this game. If you deal enough damage on the enemy, it's going to stun them, and then you're going to get a free critical hit from the enemy. Critical hits work different in Steelrising. It's not random. A critical hit is always going to be there when you stun an enemy, and then you make that final hit. That's going to be a critical hit. The bigger is going to increase its critical hit multiplier, but it's also going to give you endurance. So bigger is important for every single class, because every single class uses endurance. Although agility users, assassins, are going to get the most out of bigger because of that critical hit multiplier that you get from immobilizing the enemies. And then you have power. Power is going to increase the physical damage of power-based weapons, like this one that you see right here. This is a power-based weapon. This one right here. Also this one. Power-based weapons are heavy and they have high impact. That's the focus of those kind of builds. If you are going to make a power build, you're most likely going to be using heavy weapons. And since you're most likely going to be using heavy weapons, you need to be trading with the enemies because they attack slowly. And if you place durability, it's going to give you balance. Balance is going to allow you not to get staggered by the enemy. So also power is going to give you impact. Impact is going to allow you to stagger enemies. So essentially, as you can see, these two right here synergize between each other, these two right here synergize between each other, and these two right here synergize between each other. But this one also needs health, this one also needs stamina, and this one also can benefit from loot multiplier. I would also say it also gives you armor. So as you can see, there is some kind of synergy between stats, but these three that you have right here are always going to be important, but your main focus has to be your damage elemental, your damage stat. As you can see right here on my build right now, I am level 17 and I place most of my points into elemental alchemy because that's where I get my damage from engineering for synergizing, affliction multiplier and loot multiplier. And later stages of the game, I am going to place points into durability and bigger as well, because stamina is important, health is important, but not as important as the synergy that you have right here. So mainly I guess that at some extent, at some point, my build is going to have like 40 points in here, like 20 points in here, and like 10 in each one of these. And as you can see, the focus is here, and then this one. That is how a proper build works for this game. You also have module slots. Module slots are basically accessories. These ones are going to give you certain specific stuff that you need for your build that stats cannot give you. For example, this one right here. This one increases the duration of alchemical afflictions on my enemies. So if I do not want to spend that much points into engineering, I can use an accessory of sorts to be able to compensate for that thing that I do not have. You also have like more anima essence from enemies. So that is basically everything that you need to know about builds. And now let me showcase you how a proper build works. Again, this is an alchemical build. This is an alchemist build. My main focus with this build is to freeze enemies. To freeze enemies to take advantage of that damage. And if I am able to freeze enemies this fast, as you can see right here, 1, 2, 3, frozen. That also gives me time to heal, to reposition, to wait some times to manage the enemies, or charge a heavy attack, and then boom, he's dead. It only works because I have properly allocated my stats into my build. Oh god, could you please stop being annoying, sir? As you can see right here, 1, 2, 3. I am not focusing on immobilization, I am not focusing on impact, I am focusing on being able... Oh god, this guy is just being so annoying right now. I'm just focusing on being able to freeze my enemies as fast as possible, as you can see right here. And then I can land a very, very heavy hit on them. And that is how basically my build works. But it only works because I have properly allocated my stats. If I try to do this with not a proper allocation of stats, let's say that, for example, I place so many points into impact or agility or any other stuff like that, I wouldn't be able to freeze my enemies. It wouldn't be ideal, it wouldn't be efficient. What would be the point of me having this elemental affinity if I am not able to make the enemies be afflicted by my elemental affinity? The same goes for impact builds. What is the point of having so much power if you're not going to be able to stagger enemies? What is the point of having an agility build if you are not going to be able to immobilize the enemies and get the most out of it? So that is pretty much everything that you need to know about building your build. Be efficient, place your stats properly, use the weapons that you want to use, learn about those weapons, take a look at those weapons and see if they are viable for your build and if they synergize with whatever you are doing right here. And that being said, if you find the information useful, I would very much like to invite you to like the video because it really helps me. Like you have no idea. Now we see you goddamn gorgeous and beautiful people in the next one. Have a beautiful day and goodbye.